So we just finished, we're learning as by Sarah. Good morning. We just learned the Mishnah on Daf Chof Gimel Amid Aleph. We did not get very far yesterday, but we're just going to quickly look over the Mishnah and then continue. Because the Gemara it's not going to directly address the Mishnah, but then later on it will use the Mishnah as rayas for a question, for a few questions. Zok the Mishnah, Shnei Menachos Shaloi Nikmitzu. You have two minchas. A mincha that they're two separate ones, let's say a regular mincha, shaloi nikmitzu, that you did not yet take off the kaimetz, which is, that's what kicks off the kapara. V'nis'ar v'zu b'zu. And prior to separating the kaimetz, they got mixed with one another. It doesn't mean they got fully mixed. It means a portion of it got mixed together, and a portion still remains separate. Im yachal likmaitz mizu b'fnei atzma mizu b'fnei atzma ksheris. If from the parts of each mincha that didn't get mixed together, there's sufficient silus left over that you could do a kmitza from it, then everything's good. You do the kaimitz, and then you'll end up having the shirayim mixed together, at least part of the shirayim mixed together, but that's not a problem. It doesn't bother us afterwards. If it's the same person, he could just, the kahanim will eat them anyway. But if there's not sufficient silus that wasn't mixed together for each kmitza to take place of just that mincha, then you can't do so, because when you're going to take a kaimitz, you're going to have to take from the mixed together silus. You're almost inevitably, very likely, that you're going to get some in the kaimitz from one mincha and some from the other. And then that's not going to be a full kaimitz. It's not going to be the full shear, and therefore will be possible. Mincha, second case in the Mishnah, a kaimitz that mixed rather than the mincha being mixed in. You already took the kaimitz from mincha A, and then that kaimitz got mixed together with mincha B that didn't have the kmitza taken off of it. Lo yaktir. You can't be maktir it because it's not part of it is a mincha that didn't have the kaimitz taken off. V'im hiktir, but if you did do so, even though once you shouldn't do so, the one that already had the kaimitz taken off, since ultimately the kaimitz was burnt on the mizbeach, and that's the end of the kapara, it's going to be treated as a good mincha, a mincha that had its kaimitz taken and its kaimitz hukdar, and it's going to be you're not going to have to replace it. The one that didn't have the kmitza taken off, it's not going to be it's going to be impossible to do a kmitza on it since it has mixed in from something else. So the kmitza might not be a full kmitza, and therefore that is going to be a pasul of mincha. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. So that means that the first soilus that the kmitza was taken from, that one is going to be yoitza.
That's going to be shirayim that the kehanim are going to eat, and the person who was, whatever reason, was bringing mincha. If he made an adava mincha, he was get his kapara. It was maratza. It was a valid mincha.
So the first one's going to be maratza. The second one will not be maratza.
Right. Okay. It's going to be stuck. Nisar of kaimtza b'shira. This is a third case. If you took the mincha, you took the kaimitz from mincha A, and you also took the kaimitz from mincha. Well, let's put it this way. You took the kaimitz from mincha A, and then that kaimitz got mixed up with the shirayim of mincha A. Or if you had already taken a kaimitz from mincha B, and the kaimitz of mincha A got mixed in with the shirayim of mincha B. The shirayim are supposed to be eaten by the kehanim, and now his kaimitz is mixed in with it. Lo yaktir. He's not allowed to be maktir it. And Rashi brings that it's from a pasuk. The pasuk says that you're not allowed to be maktir shirayim on the mizbeach. V'miktir oil l'baylam. But if you do so keneged the lav, you'll be over. But since ultimately the kaimitz was burnt on the mizbeach, you're still going to get a kapara. Okay. Zok the Gemara. Amr Chizda. Nevela betela b'shchuta. Chizda holds a nevela And we're talking here, an avela is an animal that died without a shechita, whether it died by itself, or you chopped its head off, or you killed it in whatever way other than shechita. So then it is two dinner. First of all, you're not allowed to eat it, and second of all, it's metama. So an avela is betela b'shchuta. If you have a larger amount of kosher meat, animals that had been shechted, and there's no tum on them, then the veil is going to be bottle. And if let's see the Rashi who explains the case. Nevela betelu shchuta yesh shtei chatichas shchuta va'achas nevela. Right, so you have a majority of pieces of meat that are not tamei, and one that is tamei tumas nevela. Then you do ezui. Uh, you don't know which one it is. Betela bahen. The nevela is bottle in the shchuta. Shemnaga ba'achas mechatichas ain't a tummy. If it touches one of these pieces, it's not going to become tummy. That means shchuti. You'll say that the piece that you touched, if something touched, one of the chatichas, so we don't consider it to be nevela. We say it was bottle. That's the case that we're talking about. So Rav Chizda says it will be bottle. The reason is because it's not min b'minai, because the two pieces have different dinim. Because the thing that's being mevatel, the shchuta, right? There's two pieces of shchuta and one piece of nevela. So the shchuta can never become a nevela. Once it's shechted, it's not possible for it to become nevela. And that will tell us that these two things are not similar, because since they can never have the same classification. The shchuta can never become nevela. And according to, like we'll see, according to Reb Chizda, this is going to be clear. What he holds is we look at the mevatel, the thing that's the larger amount, that's being mevatel, the thing that's batel, to see whether it can be the same as the other piece. And since in this case it cannot, it's going to be mim b'she'enim mina, and therefore it's batel. Ushchuta eina betela b'nevela. But if it's the other way around, if you have more nevela than shchuta, the shchuta does not become batel. That means she'efsher, because she'efsher nevela shetasa shchuta. Since the nevela can become shchuta, so therefore it's not min b'she'enim mina, which is batel, but rather it's considered to be mina. When we look, if the larger amount is the nevela, therefore the shchuta will not have a din that it's we won't be able to say that the shchuta is batel in it, because the nevela can become shchuta. How does that happen? Well, how does he mean that the large amount, in this case the nevela, can become shchuta? Because when nevela becomes ruined, when it decomposes, so then it's going to be similar to a shchuta. It's no longer going to have the tumah. So you might ask, so what difference does it make? You're still not going to know which one is the tameh and which is the tar. So even if it's not batel, you're still not going to be able to use it. The difference is if something touches it, will it be aser mi? If it was batel, then it would be tameh mi, tameh vadai. But if it's not batel, then it's only tameh mi safek, which can have halachic distinctions. But in any case, the point of Rav Chizda is that he holds in analyzing whether two things are min b'minai or not min b'minai. He says we look at the mevatel, the larger amount, and we say, can it become similar to the smaller amount? If it's able to become similar to the smaller amount, then it's going to be min b'minai, and therefore it's not going to be batel. If it can't become similar, then it's going to be min b'she'enim mina, and it is batel. Rav Chanina Amar, that was Rav Chizda. Rav Chanina disagrees. Kol she'efshel lo eliyas kamayu eine batel. V'chol she'yefshel eliyas kamayu batel. He looks at it the other way. He disagrees with Rav Chizda. He says we don't look at the larger amount, the thing that's the mavatal, to determine whether it's min b'minai, because it has the same. It's able to whether it's able to become similar to the other thing. But rather we look at the thing that's being bottled, not the mevatel, but the bottle. And he says, if the thing that's bottled, for example, if you have two pieces of nevela and one piece of shchuta, since shchuta can never become nevela, it's considered to be min b'she'ein minai and it's bottled. But if it's the other way around, if it's two pieces of of uh, of shchuta with one piece of nevela, since nevela can become like a shachat when it's matzriach, so therefore it will be considered to be min b'mina and it won't be bat. Now, libedeman, who is this like? We had the earlier machlekes about whether we say, I've just been saying whether it's min b'minoi or not min b'minoi, but not everyone holds of min b'minoi. According to the Rabban, it doesn't make a difference whether it's min b'minoi or not min b'minoi. This whole din that we say min b'minoi is not batal, that's Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbanan said the circumstance under which we say something is not batal is when you have two things that are oil mizbeach. When we're talking about a shchuta and a vela, it has nothing to do with oil al mizbeach. We're talking about pieces of meat, not talking about karbanos. So according to him, whether it's min b'mina, whether you say like Rav Chanina or Rav Chizda, it's irrelevant. In either case, l'chayra, it's going to be, whether it's min b'mina or not, it's going to be batal. Yehuda, if we hold like Rabbi Yehuda, but we have a different problem. Rabbi Yehuda, b'chad chazusa azul, basar chazusa azul. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he holds. We're going to see Rashi in a second. Rashi explains that we have a raya that Rabbi Yehuda does not look at in determining whether two things are min b'minai or not min b'minai. We don't determine it based on whether legally they can have the same rules. Like, for example, like we were talking about whether the nevela becomes shchuta or the shchuta become nevela. It depends on its physical composition, what it actually is made up of. And v'aidi min b'munahu. So it doesn't make a difference which one is the shchuta and which one is the nevela and whether it could come. In either case, since they're both pieces of meat, they're going to be min b'mina, which is not batal. Rashi says, the Kamil El ein dam mevatel dam. We said earlier that that dam is not mevatel dam. That if you have dam of kachim that fell into dam of chulin, it doesn't become batal because they're the same thing. They're both dam. Certainly, kachim dam cannot be chulin dam, and vice versa, because it just depends. Min b'mina, according to Yehuda, it depends on what it is physically made up of. Min of basar and betelum zeh bezeh. They shouldn't be bought. Dr. Mara Ella, we're on the second line on Chav Gimel Amud Beis. Ella libed Rav Chia. We have to go like Rav Chia. The Tani Rav Chia. Chia said, "Nevelu shchuta betelis zu bezu." He says that nevela and shchuta are betelis zu bezu. Zok Rashi, Rav Chanina, Rav Chizda, Mefarshi, Taimid Rav Chia. They're the Rav Chia and Rav Chanina and Rav Chizda who are arguing. They're not arguing bedafke in Rav Yehuda. They're arguing in Rav Chia. Rav Chizda savar nevela b'shchuta, Rav Chia v'loy shchuta b'nevela. Rav Chanina Mefarshipcha. They'll each understand this brisa that was brought by Rav Chia that he says that nevela and shchuta is betela zu bezu, which is the same. We're understanding it as the same case we had before. You had a majority of either shchuta or majority of nevela, and according to Rav Chizda, will look toward the mevatel to determine whether it's going to be min b'mina or not. If the majority is shchuta, which cannot become nevela, so then there's not min b'mina. If it's the majority is nevela, then it's going to be, since the veil could be matzriach, therefore it could be matzriach and become like the shchuta. It will be mim b'mina and not batal according to Rav Chia. According to the way Rav Chizda would understand Rav Chia, and Rav Chanina would do it the opposite. It will depend on the thing that's being bought. In fact, the Gemara, Rav Chia li b'daman. How have you helped matters? Rav Chia, who is he saying like? It means Rav Chia is not a Tana. He's saying a Brisa, but who is it like? Iya li b'derabanan amri oilenu. V'lo mevali adadi. We have the same problem like we said originally in Rav Chizda and Rav Chanina. Now we're saying that Rav Chanina and Rav Chizda are arguing in Rav Chia. But who is Rav Chia himself like? And if he's going like Yehuda, call him b'min Yehuda, loy batal. Like we said before, that it's basa chazusa. Look, at least that's as we're understanding Rabbi Yehuda at this point. Rabbi Yehuda holds it depends on chazusa. It doesn't depend on whether they have the same rules, whether they're the same halachas will apply to them. So after the Gemara, no. La'olam ali b'di Yehuda. V'chika am Rabbi Yehuda min b'min le'batal. Hani mile hechad efshaloi l'mahavi kavase. Aval hechad efshaloi l'mahavi kavase batal. That Rav Chia is going like Rabbi Yehuda, but we're changing that. We're changing Rabbi Yehuda. We're gonna. It's not just a question of whether it's they look alike. In order for it to be min b'minai, it also have to have. Rav Chia understands Rabbi Yehuda that it also has to have that it's going to be that they're going to have the same rules, that the same halachas will apply. So it's in addition to being min b'mina, it also the chazusha should be min b'mina, that their appearance, the physical substance is the same. It also has to be that they have the same halacha, and that's why the brisa of Rabbi Yehuda is going to say, the brisa of Rav Chia, according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rav Chizda, it's going to be saying if you have a majority of the mevatel, it's going to be min b'mina. It's if majority of mevatel is the same, can't change, then it's going to be ein niminai. And according to Rav Chanina, if the majority of the thing that's batal is going to be that it can't change to be like the mevatel, it's going to be considered ein niminai and not batal. And batal, I'm sorry. Right? It can only be mevatel min b'she'ein niminai. And the Gemara just states it straight out. Rav Chizda sava basa mevatel asli, and like we just said, Rav Chizda will hold in determining whether the two minim are the same. We're going to go basar the thing that is being mevatel, the larger amount that's the mevatel. Rav Chizda sava basa batel asli, and we're going to look after the thing that's becoming batel in determining whether it can become whether it's mint, whether two have the same mint. So we're going to try to bring rayas on this. Okay. I feel like that's probably a mistake, but
yeah, it was.
I try to do it, and it can't understand a word of the Gemara. Like I did it just for fun one time, and nothing happened. Just it was all blank. I guess the Zoom AI is not yet ready to understand Gemara. Tanan. So now we're going to bring rayas from our Mishnah about this question. This. Do we learn do we understand Rav Yehuda like Rav Chia or not? That it depends on the legal status according to Rav Chanina and according to Rav Chizda of the batal or the mevatel. Tnan shtei menachos. It's said in our Mishnah, shtei menachos lo nikmetzu. You have two menachos that did not have the kaimitz taken off of them. V'nis'ar v'zu, and a portion of it. This is the first case of the Mishnah. And the two menachos got mixed together partially. Part of mincha A got mixed with part of mincha B. If there's enough left of the silas that didn't get mixed together in mincha B, A and in mincha B, ksheris, then they're kosher because you could just do a kmitza and the rest of the mincha can be mixed. The shirayim are mixed. It's not a problem. Them lav sulas, but if not, they're going to be possible. Fact the Gemara, but how does that work? Like you're saying, if there is enough to be kaimitz separate of mincha A, so you take a kaimitz from mincha A, then you go and you take a kaimitz from mincha B. But how can you do that? Even the kaimitz lemichad. As soon as you took a kmitza from mincha A, then the part that's mixed together is a mixture. Idachavale shirayim. So the rest of that mincha becomes shirayim. The loy mukamavali shirayim lativla, and we're saying that even though you have shirayim of mincha A mixed together with mincha the mincha of mincha B that did not have shirayim that did not have the kaimitz taken off of it, so we're calling that tivla because it didn't yet have the kaimitz taken. We're saying it's not going to be mevatel. The shirayim is not going to be mevatel that the other part is assuming that, let's say that there was more shirayim than there was teva. Who is that like? According to Rabbanan, we say min b'minoi batal, and this is it doesn't make a difference whether it's min b'minoi or not min b'minoi. It's going to be batal. So you shouldn't be able to take the kaimitz of mincha B since part of its that mincha became batal to the shirayim. El pshita Rabbi Yehuda. Elamites going to Rabbi Yehuda. Bishlam l'manda mabasa batal azlinon. According to the mandam that we go according to the thing that's becoming batal have hamikavikim avatal. The unseparated part of the mincha that we're trying to be mevatel, it's eventually is going to take the kaimitz. It's also going to come shirayim, so it has the potential to be the same as it. The chikamitz meidach havalu shirayim kihani. It will be the same as the mincha B when you take the kaimitz from the unmixed portion of it, the part that's not together with the mixed part. Then the part that's mixed together will be shirayim, so it'll be the same. Therefore, it's min b'mina. It's not batal. But according to the mandama that we go basa the mavatal, shirayim you can have a tivla. Shirayim can never go backwards and become tevel. So if the kaimitz of mincha A is shirayim, if the leftovers of mincha A after you took the kaimitz of shirayim, that can never go back and become non-shirayim, become a tevel, become a mincha that didn't have its kaimitz taken, and therefore it should be min b'she'ein min according to Rabbi Yehuda the way Rav Chia understands it, and it should be batal, and therefore you should not be able to take the kaimitz from mincha B. Lema the like Rav Chia. Saknamar no hasam k'der of zera. There's a different reason. Like we're going to see the actual member of Rav Zera later on in the Yamid, but we can apply it over here. Dam Rav Zera nemra haktara b'kaimitz v'nemra haktara b'shirayim. The Torah uses the words haktara l'gabi the kaimitz, and it also says about the shirayim. Ma haktara amur b'kaimitz ein hakaimitz mevatel as chaver. Av haktara amur b'shirayim ein shirayim mevatel as hakaimitz. It tells you that a kaimitz cannot become batal. So even though the shirayim are not going to be mevatel the kaimitz, so even though you might have more shirayim than the tevel, that will not be mevatel the part that's a kaimitz. We look at the way we understand it is that we look at the unseparated, the part of the what we're calling the tivla of the mincha beis that's mixed together with the shirayim as composed of two parts. It has the potential kaimitz and the potential shirayim. And the potential kaimitz cannot become batal because of this pasuk we learn from the Haktara. We learn it didn't have Haktara. The kaimitz is not mevatal. Another kaimitz, so too the shirayim are not going to mevatal the kaimitz as well. It's a gzeres hakasv. So we're going to try to bring a raya from another source. I'm going to keep having the same teretz that we're going to say because the kaimitz cannot become batal. Toshma, a kaimitz shenisar v'mincha shalei nikmatza. The second case of the Mishnah, a kaimitz that mixed into mincha that was not chametz yet. Instead of in shirayim, it got mixed. I'm sorry, the kaimitz got mixed in instead of the shirayim getting mixed in. The kaimitz of the first one got mixed into the tevel. The kaimitz of mincha aleph got mixed in together with the original mincha beis before kmitza. Lo yakter, you can't be makter it. V'em hikter, but if you do so, zusha nikmatza also labaylam, v'zusha lo nikmatza lo also labaylam. The one that mincha A that had its kmitza taken, you burnt it on the mizbeach, so it's kapara. But the one that was not nikmatz, it's already mechusar, part of it was burnt, and you're not able to take the kaimitz from a mincha that's missing. But we're saying that this kaimitz, even though it fell into a larger amount of tevel, the tevel is not being mevatel the kaimitz. Money, Rabban Amrina, Eilen Hud, Loy Mevali Adadi, Hamimina Batel, El Pshita Behuda, Bishal Mandam Basa Batel is Linon, Mevatel Havi Kabatel. In this case, if you go bust to the mevatel, like Rav Chizda, so the mevatel, which is the original mincha, havi kabatel, the chol purta chazi lemikamitz mine. Since you could take kaimitz from any part of this mincha that didn't have its kaimitz taken, so any part could potentially be the same as the kaimitz. So therefore, it's going to be considered min b'minai, and that's the reason why it's not bought. According to Chanina, that you say go bas mevatel, kametz mika havi tivla. Lame like Rav Chia, so it's not like Rav Chia who said that we would apply the machlokes of Rav Chizda and Rav Chanina. So this will also answer like Rav Zera, who says that a kaimitz cannot become batal, regardless of whether it's shirayim, like we said in the first kasha, or whether it's talking about the actual mincha in the second case. Toshma nisarv kumtza b'shirayim shel chavarta. We said if the kaimitz of mincha bay aleph got mixed into the shirayim of mincha b, lo yakter v'em hikter also l'bayim. You're not allowed to be makter it. Like we said, it's a pasuk that says you're not allowed to mix a kaimitz into shirayim. V'em hikter also l'bayim. But if you're makter, it's treated as also l'bayim. V'hacha d'lehavi mevatel kabatel v'lekem mevatel le'shirayim l'kaimitz. Neither of them, neither mevatel can become the batel, or the shirayim can't become a kaimitz, and the kaimitz can't be shum shirayim. V'loikam mevatel le'shirayim l'kaimitz, and nevertheless the shirayim are not being mevatel l'kaimitz. Money Rabbanan will have the same shakavatay. The Rabbanan certainly can't be. They don't not between min b'minay, not min b'minay. Amar of Zera. So this is the original member of Zera. Nemer haktara b'kaimitz v'nemer haktara b'shirayim. Ma haktara amur b'kaimitz ein kaimitz mevatel s'chaver. Af haktara amur b'shirayim ein shirayim mevatlen es hakaimitz. We see from a pasuk that the kaimitz does not become batel by being mixed in with other parts of the carbon. Zaktamar Toshma, final attempt to bring a raya. Tivla beketzach ubeshumshrimin ubechol minei tavel. If someone mixed in to his challah, he's making matzah. He's making matzah for Pesach, and he mixed in spices. Ketzach is a kind of spice. Shumshrimin is sesame seeds or any kind of spice. Kshera, matzahi, because it's matzah even with the spices. Elishanikus matzah metuvel. It's just called spiced matzah. Kasalkadaitach, we would think the avish latavlin tfeimi matzah. We're talking about where there's more spices than matzah. Taisvis the remas kasalkadaitach the avish latavlin mipi matzah tfeimi matzah. Taisvis asks, why would you ever think that there's more spices than matzah than flour in a matzah? So Taisvis in derech lasas came. Even though it's not normal to make a matzah like that, when you add in spices, it could be in the particular spot that you take your bite from, that you want to be yotzi your kazayas of matzah, that in that spot there's more spices. Zak Gemara, Bishlam lamanda amar basam bebatel azlinon batel havikum bevatel. If you say they're going according to the thing that's being bought, like Rav Chanina, So the matzah is the part that is less than the spices. So the matzah can become like the spices. The chima afsha have like a tavlin when it becomes decomposed, when it becomes spoiled. It no longer has a din of matzah, so it becomes like the tavlin that you're no longer able to be mekayim mitzvahs matzah in it, and that's why it's not batal. According to the man that you go basa mevatel, like the spices, tavlin mika have matzah. Tavlin spices can never become like matzah, so therefore it should be mim b'she'enim minoi, and the matzah should be batal to the tavlin. So we're talking about a case where it's not more spices. Duruba matzi. Most of it is matzah, v'loy batla, and therefore it's not batal. They cannot be ton of matzahi. Unless shenikras matzah mituvelas. And the raya is because we said it's matzah. The Brisa itself had said it's matzah, but it's only called spice matzah, and that's the reason why you yaitze the mitzvahs matzah, because there's more matzah than there is spices. Shma mina. Sagt the Gemara. Kisalik Rav Kahana ashkechinu lebnei Rav Chihia the Yasv Ka'am. When Rav Kahana went down, he found the sons of Rav Chihia that they were sitting and saying, Yisarin shecholko b'hinicha b'kisa. If you have a single mincha that was divided into two parts in a kli sharos, b'naga tful yoyim be'echad mehem, and a tful yoyim touched one of the two sides, one of the two halves of this mincha. Mao. What's the din? Kitan kli mitzaref masha b'seicha. Rashi brings down from Chagiga that we say that a kli puts together the two parts, the two things that are inside of it, le-kaddish, in order to make them kaddish. That if Tful Yom touch one part of it, the rest of it will become kaddish. That which it said in the Mishnah in Chagiga is only when the two sides, the two pieces, are touching each other. But in our case, where it's divided up in the kli and then the two pieces are not touching each other, one being metama, one with a tuliyam, is not going to be metama the other one. Maybe there's no difference. As long as even when they're not touching each other, since they're in the same kli, that din of that Mishnah of kli mitzaref will apply. Amlu iu mitnan kli mechaber. Did it say kli mechaber? Kli mitzaref tanan. Koldu. That it says kli mitzaref. Mitzaref is a stronger lashon. Mitzaref means like to weld together. It's used when we talk about a silversmith. It's called a mitzaref. So so from the fact we use a lashon mitzaref means that the two are considered to be as one, even if they're not touching. So now the Gemara asks another question. What happens if someone who is a tvul yoim stuck his finger in the kli, in the airspace of the kli between the two parts? We said if he touches one of them, it's going to be the time of the other. What if he didn't touch either of them, but he just stuck his finger into them? Is the avir of the kli going to be considered to be mechaber, and the area between them is as if he touched them? Amlei tzarchel kli mitzarfei. Ein tzarchel kli, ein kli mitzarfei. He says, if something is needed, I'm sorry, I said this wrong. It's not talking where he took his finger. It's talking about where he took another piece he had two halves of this mincha on two sides of the kli, and he put a third piece in between them, and then a Tvul Yom touched that thing that was in between them, this other piece of a different mincha. So he answered back, if something needs to be in the kli, meaning if it's part of the original mincha, the two halves of a kli, then the kli is mitzaref then. If it's from a different mincha, ain't kli mitzaref. It's not going to be mitzaref then. Now, the case that I thought we were talking about, is the Tvul Yom stuck his finger in between the two halves. He said there's no such thing that the kli cheres considers a kli cheres. If you put your finger into it, it's matama anything inside of it. But that only applies to the inside of a kli cheres. There's no such din that without touching you can be matama other than that case. And this is not such a case. It's talking about a regular kli cheres, which is not cheres. He asked, let's move away from the question of whether the two halves of a mincha can be mitama one another. What's the din? If you take a kaimitz from one half, will it apply to the other half? Tziruf dairaisa derabban. It's tziruf a dairaisa, like Rashi says. Damrin and kaf achas akasav asol l'chol mash b'kaf achas. Do you say that the pasuk that's brought in Chagiga is a dairaisa and therefore will work even l'kula to say that the two sides you could take a kaimitz on one side from the other side, apply to the other side. Derabanan, or is that just an asmachta? And it's only midirabanan that we treat the two sides one as if they're mitzvah. I didn't hear the answer to your question directly, but I heard a similar question. None. Yeah, this is from our mission. You have two menachos that didn't have kaimitz taken from them. It's arva zu, and part of it got mixed together. If you could take from the unmixed parts a kaimitz from each one, ksheres and lapsulas. But it's mashma that if you are able to take the kaimitz from the part that's not touching, that didn't get mixed together, it would be kosher. Amai hachtamar of halei was saying that it was separated, each kaimitz was separated into two parts. Part that's separate and part that mixed together with the other kaimitz. So clearly, the mincha, the entire mincha is not touching each other, the other part of it. So and nevertheless, the kaimitz will apply, the kmitza will apply to the part that's not touching. He says maybe that it's enechanami when you take when you have the two parts mixed together. It means you have kaimitz aleph, that part of it is mixed together with kaimitz beis and part is not. It doesn't mean that it's totally separated, the half that's mixed with mincha beis and the part that's not. There's a connection, there's a little bit of flour at the end that connects them. So you can, when you'll take a kaimitz from the part that is undiluted with mincha beis, you'll know you're only taking the kaimitz from that part. My havi Allah. So we don't have a rise, so what's the din? Amarava Tashma, the Tanya, we say in a brisa that you should take from what's attached, that you shouldn't take your mincha from take knelim, yikmitz. As long as they're in the same kli, even though they're separated, you be kaimitz. It's mashma that you can be kaimitz even though they're separated in the kli. Maybe the two kelim that we're talking about, what's it talking about? Like we're talking about a narrow kli inside of a wider kli. They have the same height. Even though they're touching on top, but that where they're touching on top is outside of the kli. It's on top of where the kli is. Even the mitzvah, the kfiza mitata, since the narrow kli is separating from what's inside the narrow kli is separated from what's inside of the wider kli. Hakli echad, that's going to be two things. Hakli echad dumya de beis kelim hechidami, but kli echad dumya de beis kelim goyna rifshe shatana goyim. If it's a kli that has a border inside of it that doesn't reach the height of the kli. V'avagav the misuk. So even though the mechitza is mafzeh kanagia, they're touching on top within the kli. Avalachad lo negia klal. But our case, where they're not touching at all, that still remains a question. What happens if you have a tzir of kli, that they're in the same kli, and then you also have something that's mechuber b'mayim, a third thing that's attached outside the kli, a third mincha? Will it be metama? Kitan kli mitzaref masha b'seichel l'kadosh hanamilach t'gavoy. That's only what's inside. Avol debroi, that's attached through water, like they're both touching a stream of water. Whether it's attached through the kli or if it's attached through the water, it's going to remain a valid attachment, and it's going to be mekadesh, can be mekadesh the kaimitz with through the chibur. Mayim v'tzir kli v'nagal yami b'chotz mao. Gemara asks another question: what if you have something that's mitzurif with mayim, minchas mitzurif with mayim from outside the kli, and he touched the tvuyam, touched the thing, and then that is conveyed through the water into the kli? Will it also then hop over into what's touching the first mincha, the other half, in the part that's not touching in the other half of the kli? Kitan and kli mitzav hanimili de noga megavoy. That's only where they're touching inside. But with the tumas coming from outside, coming through water, and now you want to use the kli mitzarev to be mitzarev them, loy, oidem loishno, teku. The Gemara leaves that as a teku. We'll stop over here. Sorry for going over, but